Great opening game week here in the Long Family Operations Center. It's a much better arena for our press conferences, and we're excited about that. I appreciate Ken and Cindy and their contributions and everyone's contribution to this building. It's amazing to how all 32 teams have been to our training camp and evaluated our players, and we've had multiple general managers come through, and the comments we've had about how functional our facility is, and certainly has been a huge benefit for our program. But 3:30 kick in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium against North Carolina. Got a lot of respect for Coach Brown, obviously working for him for 3 years. Carol and I were talking the other night, probably the three of the better years we've had in coaching, there at Texas, and glad he's back in college football. Not that he wasn't in college football, but he was on y'all's team, and now he's back on our team. So that's the good part of it. I'm just kidding. Y'all can laugh, a little bit there. Loosen up, But he's really hired a really good staff. Phil Longo was at Ole Miss, a guy I've got a lot of respect for. Jay Bateman did a fantastic job at West Point. Stacy Searles and I won a national championship together at LSU. So a lot of guys I've got a lot of respect for. First games, expect the unexpected. You're trying to piece together film from different, teams and different things. You got point of attack tapes from the North Carolina players that have been there before and played there previously. A lot of those guys we've recruited. So I think, got some good football players on that team. This is a team that lost 5 games by 1 score or less. In those situations, I lost a game to a hurricane, and obviously, confidence is such an important part of what we do, and you lose a little confidence in those situations. And I think that's probably what happened in that situation. Snowballed on them a little bit last year, but they've got some talented players, a bunch of guys that we've recruited before that we need to go up to Charlotte and we need to play well. I think we've had good preparation. We've introduced last Friday, really, North Carolina to our team and started back with a normal Tuesday practice with our team today, and we'll tie things up on Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday we'll have a walkthrough. So injury report for us, really only one guy, Kier Thomas, and I told you after our second scrimmage was going to be cleared for full contact. He was doing a lot of stuff with our players, worked out on that Sunday, came back on the Monday, had some swelling, and as the week rolled on, he's got an infection in the ankle right now. The ankle's fine, the ligament's fine, but we're dealing with the infection right now, so we're pumping him with antibiotics. It'll probably be 2 weeks, and I'll let you know after that about where it'll be. We need to get that under control right now, but the ankle's fine. Other than that, we should be good. Evan Henson, in our last conversation, he was going to transfer and play basketball. He felt like that was what that he wanted to do moving forward, so we wish him the best moving forward, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you.
Will, is there an update on Nick Muse's status?
Not at this time, and that's in our compliance hands, and again, that's up to the NCAA.
How do you handle that this week? Do you take him to Charlotte on the off chance he could get cleared Friday night?
Well, we're practicing and giving him reps to get him ready for the game. Certainly not investing as many reps as you normally would, because he certainly can help our football team this year. But we'll wait on word, and if he has not been cleared, he can't travel.
I guess, is there an update on Devontae Davis? I know you mentioned the fact that he might have to miss the entire season with that foot injury.
Yes, it was a Liz Frank. He had surgery. He's doing well, but he'll miss the season.
Any update on Jaquez Searles?
Not at this time. We're still working through that.
Well, you've said a few times this is your deepest team that you believe. Did that show itself in the competition that this team had during camp?
Well, I think so. I think that we had, you go back to our first scrimmage, to be able to roll 3 groups out there and be very competitive, to know that even in that third group, there's guys that are going to help our football team this year. They're going to help and contribute to our team, to be able to have those guys rep. Because you can talk all you want about trying to be physical, trying to do the things you've got to do to be successful. But in order to play 3 technique, you got to take on a 700-pound double team. And that's the only way you're going to get better doing that. And if you don't rep that enough, then you're never going to get really good at doing it. So to be able to do that and have 150 live scrimmage snaps and live special team snaps, and that attributes the depth that you have on your football team. And so there's no question it's made us better, because guys got to understand they got to bring their A game every single day to practice in order to play. And so no question, when you have quality depth, to be able to have guys have more competition, it brings more consistency in your performance as a player, and there's less motivation from a coach's standpoint on the practice field. The guys know they've got to come and perform, because at the end of the day, the film is what matters and what you put on film.
Way in the back, John.
with JT, he said he hasn't been quite full go yet at practice. What have you seen out of him? What makes you confident that he can start on Saturday?
Well, I think he'll be ready to go. He's done some things for us throughout the week, and that's nothing unusual from the past. It's just a strain that he's had before. He's managed the situation before, and we're looking forward to seeing him play.
You've dealt with targeted attrition at certain positions over the last couple of years. Last year was secondary, a couple of years ago offensive line. How do you deal with what you've had with the tight end room and the tight end position, and how would you assess where that group is going into the first game?
Well, we had discussed moving Chandler before the season started because we needed somebody that could block in the C area as far as those things are concerned. And it turns out he's done a nice job in the passing game for us. So that was something that was discussed because of the different body type he gave us at that position. And Kiel was obviously a guy from an experience standpoint and playmaking standpoint, the guy that we were really counting on. Past that, we're kind of where we are, where we thought we'd be at this time. So hopefully we'll be able to get Nick Muse good news on him, and he'll be able to help us this year because he's certainly a guy that can help our football team.
Feaster's been here less than a month. What's a realistic expectation for game one for him coming in here as a senior, but his first time in the program? And what's your sense on the breakdown as far as three running backs all want to play and how you're going to split those up?
Well, we'll discuss that moving forward further in the week as far as those things are concerned. But my expectation of him to play very well, and that ought to be his expectation too. And knowing Tavian the short time I've known him, that is his expectation.
Well, a bunch of the guys were saying, this offseason that the offense is a little bit more aggressive this year. How different is the offense under McClendon in year two, and where's the line there between sort of being too aggressive and, obviously taking care of the football?
You coming on Saturday? Come on, watch it, see what you think. I'm sure I'll get your opinion when it's over. But no, I feel like we've done a nice job of, I think in year two as a play caller, you're always more comfortable, whether it's on offense, defense, whatever it is, Mike. And I think that you're more comfortable with your players. You're more comfortable schematically. You're more comfortable with your staff. You're more comfortable about the different ideas, the things you feel like can work, the things you don't feel like can work, the throws that can be made, the catches that can be made, how well we're going to block up front, and how well can we protect up front, the backs that we have. So again, I don't mean to be rude. I'm just saying that I think you have a more comfort level. It's no different than playing as a freshman and being a first-year play caller. The game slows down for you, and you go back through of what you think are important and what you think that you feel like your players can do, because it always goes back to players. And one of the many things I learned from a guy I used to work for was forget about plays. Think about players and what can they do to be successful. And that's what we try and do here.
How much do you expect Phil Longo to do what he did against y'all at Ole Miss, and how much of it do you expect to be new?
Well, again, I think people do what they do, and Phil's been a coordinator for a long time and been very successful at what he's done. Now, is there going to be some different things that he does because he's going to evaluate the talent he has at North Carolina as opposed to maybe what he had at Ole Miss, as opposed to what he maybe had at Sam Houston? So you're going to adapt what you do to your players and what they can do best, and that's what good coaches do, and that's what Phil is. So, there'll be some changes. And I told our guys this morning, expect the unexpected. There's going to be something we're not prepared for. You got to fall back on your fundamentals, your technique, and your teammates, and that's the bottom line, and that's what we'll plan on doing.
With the quarterback, how do you go about gathering information on him?
Well, we recruited Sam. We think Sam's a fantastic player. We offered him here at South Carolina. He's got arm talent. He had all kind of records there in high school, a guy that's got ability to run the ball. He's a competitor. He's a battler. He can make all the throws as far as the touch throws. He can zip it. So, we got a lot of respect for Sam. We offered him here at South Carolina.
Going back to 2012, you guys prepared for Johnny Manziel in what I believe was his first collegiate start. Any parallels there in terms of getting ready and trying to figure out what to expect from a guy who hasn't played a collegiate game?
Well, yeah. I think from the standpoint of just we did have an idea offensively of some things that they were going to do, going into that season from what Cliff had done before Killensbury. So some ideas. Again, you're kind of doing the same thing. You're piecing together what you feel like they've done before at Houston and some different places that they've been and what they might do against us and how they may try and attack us. So you try to, you try to use your educated best guess of what a team may try and do to you schematically. And then again, on game day, you've got to adjust to the people that are playing on the field. You can't; those are things you don't have any control over.
Will, how has DeCarrion adjusted to his new responsibilities, and do you anticipate him playing Saturday?
Absolutely, he's going to play, and he's been great. He's been a very open attitude about everything. He's been a great attitude, but nothing's changed with him. That's who he is as a person. He handles everything in a first-class manner.
Knowing Mac Brown as well as you do, what do you, if you have a chance to think about it, expecting him to tell his team this week as an underdog facing your team, and do you expect him to have any tricks up the old sleeve on Saturday that he might bring some surprises on you?
Well, I think, again, obviously when you've worked with somebody, you get a good feel. Obviously, there'll be some things up on special teams that he'll have up every week, no different than us. I mean, that's true with most any coach I've worked with. They're going to have some things that they want to try and take advantage, gain an extra possession, as far as those things are concerned. But, he'll have his team well prepared. His staff will do a great job, and we need to play well on Saturday.
Will Feaster seems like a very business-like guy. How have you seen him handle his business and adapt to your program since he's been here?
I think exactly what you just said. He has handled things in a first-class manner, comes to everything early, works his butt off, does everything that's asked of him. I've been overly pleased with Tavian and his work ethic and his buy-in and everything that he's done for our program. And, you research these things and you kind of talk to people and you say, hey, man, this guy's a good guy. He's a good program guy. And because it's always tough when you want to bring a senior into a good locker room, which we've got a good locker room. And he's been a great teammate.
With the carry-in, you mentioned he will play Saturday. Do you have a sense of where he'll play?
Well, you coming?
Yes, sir.
All right, good.
And
you'll find out Saturday.
And one other question: when you're looking back at kind of the film of a staff that's new, how far back do you go? Are you looking at a lot of Sam Houston for Phil, a lot of Ball State, and I guess Elon for Jay?
Well, Jay was at West Point for a while. He had some years there. So I mean, that's a lot of film, obviously from West Point, and then preparing for Ole Miss last year, we spent a lot of time studying Sam Houston, so we keep our notes and kind of compare and go back. And obviously, when you have a lot of time before a game, you do spend a lot of time going back and just making sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's on all your information.
Well, what makes the difference, do you think, with teams being able to win a week one game in terms of, obviously you have to make adjustments on the fly sometimes more often than maybe some other games, but what in your experience from the teams that you've coached on, what's the difference with those teams that are able to win week one?
I don't know. I think that week one's a lot like a bowl game. It's the first time we haven't done as much live tackling as you normally do back when we were playing. So from that standpoint, tackling's always a concern for you. Communication issues, self-inflicted wounds, substitution issues, delay of game, having to burn timeouts in the first half or the second half, and you don't have them at the end of the halves. When you talk in terms of those situations, communication, we've worked with crowd noise. We've tried to simulate game day as much as you can. You can't until it happens. But I think an experienced team helps. Guys that have played a lot, that have been in that situation, having great communicators at the quarterback position, on the offensive line, at the linebacker position, the safety position for us, just for our football team, to have great communicators to get some young players, and we'll have some young players on the team, on the field on Saturday, to get them lined up, to calm them down. I think those things are really important. So I think a little bit of a experience standpoint to eliminate a lot of the self-inflicted issues you create for yourself in an opening game, in a bowl game situation, and special teams. I mean, you don't have. We've had some live looks. We have nothing what's going to happen on Saturday, as far as a live punt going down the field and covering and been distributing our lanes the right way, blocking on the return, making good decisions. And again, there's going to be some young players out there, so they've got to make really good decisions. And it's a lot different when they do it in front of Bank of America Stadium as opposed to doing right here at the practice field at South Carolina. That's a huge difference. So, again, the young players making good decisions in those situations. Well, yeah, I would if I knew who we were going to go with, so we could make it a controlled environment, not invite you or fans. I think it'd be a heck of a deal, but y'all wouldn't want that, so we wouldn't do it. But you come out of a scrimmage, and then how are you going to approach the scrimmage? We would approach the scrimmage to improve our football team and get better, and to work individual, and to work team situations, and to work 1 minute and work all kind of things. Then you're going to get somebody out there that's going to want to win the scrimmage. and then you got a problem and your fan base goes nuts when you don't score 48 points and you don't shut anybody out, and you got a problem. And of course, you guys are going to write wonderful articles about what happened. So then you got to deal with all that. So that's the flip side of it. If it was a private setting, I'd love to do it. You know the coaching staff, and you'd be able to go and get, in my opinion, a lot of work done with it. Absolutely.
Well, obviously you've got Mac this week, Nick in a couple weeks. You play Kirby every year, now Jimbo every year. Does it take time to get used to the idea that, hey, you know, these are guys I might be fond of, and I'm going to be facing them at this level of football year after year?
It's gotten old hat, to be honest with you now to this point. I've got great respect for all those men, and certainly wish them very well, all but one Saturday that we play them, and that's just part of it. And I don't like facing people I've worked with or I'm friends with. You don't like doing it, but that's part of what we got to do.
Well, following up on the control scrimmage concept that you have, do you think there's much chance of that getting any traction either at this time or in August or in the spring?
I have no idea. I would probably say it would be a better spring idea, but I don't know that a lot of people would be for it from the standpoint of travel and different things you got to do to make it happen.
You mentioned a plan for it to carry on. How do you feel, or what is your plan when it comes to getting Ryan snaps in games that are necessarily in the balance, or is there a plan in place for that?
We just need to play well on Saturday, and that's what we're gonna have to do on Saturday.
Well, have you guys voted on team captains yet?
We go game to game captains, and we vote team captains at the end of the season.
Well, earlier Jake told us that this is the most confident he's been going into a season. Have there been a couple of moments that illustrate that to you, either at practice or off the field?
Well, I think he's had a really good training camp. I think he's very comfortable with what we're doing offensively. I think that you're going into his first year, he didn't play the first 6 games. So obviously, playing helps. Going into his second year, first year as the starter, being the guy. Going into his third year, he's got a new coordinator and some new terminology, some new pieces around him. And I think the familiarity, obviously brings confidence in what he's doing. And I think that's what you see right now. But he's had a really good training camp. He's got really good people around him. You look at Brian and Shy and some of the guys and some of the training camps. Kyle Markway's had a really good camp. I think we've done a nice job up front. The backs have done a nice job. So, I think that his familiarity with those guys and what we're doing and where he is right now in his career, having 32 starts, should be confident.
What stands out stylistically and scheme-wise with the Jay Bateman defense?
Well, I think that we're, just watching them, they're very similar to some things we do as far as 3 and 4 down. And constantly on the attack, whether it's bringing the illusion of 5-man and it's a 4-man pressure or a 5-man pressure, and then a good mixture of middle field and split safety coverages to make the quarterback read on the run. So I think that he does a nice job of mixing things up, and I think his guys play really good technique up front.
Coach, you've been here, for a few years now, and I guess I'm curious, you've gone through some season openers and you've been building the program. Is this as confident as you've been as a head coach going into an opener? If so, why?
Well, I think we've said it before. I think this is our most talented team we've had and the deepest team that we've had. Just going back and through the different training camps that we've had and where we are right now with our team. So I think that's a product of recruiting well and developing players well, and I think that brings you a little confidence as a head coach.
Coach, UNC's went through a lot of turnover, obviously, on their staff, but one thing that was successful for them last year was special teams and a guy like Daz Newsome who can kind of change the game. What are you guys, expecting there to kind of limit him and make sure that he doesn't change the game on Saturday?
Well, Newsome's really good in space. He's an outstanding receiver. He's played both in the slot and outside for them a year ago. But he's a really good guy as far as the punt returner against Syracuse, had a big return for them. But, guy we've got a lot of respect for. I think they're really, it's a skill position. They got both the Brown guys from Charlotte. They're really good players, can really run on the top end. Groves has been a really dependable guy for him in the slot and outside as well. So Anton Green's a guy we recruited. We recruited a lot of their skill guys. So we think they're very talented as far as the skill positions. All 3 backs can play about anywhere in the country, both the Williams and the Carter. Young Michael Carter is a really good player as well. So, but Daz is a really good player, a guy that we've got to do a nice job in coverage units in all situations.
I guess outside of obviously winning the game Saturday, just what do you want to see from your team that I guess will make you feel more comfortable or in a better place than what you are maybe right now?
Well, again, I think, going out on game day and executing the right way, not having self-inflicted issues as far as penalties and things that we don't need to have on our football team. I challenge our players all the time about being an every down dude, and that's doing all the things that take no talent well. And that's your effort, it's your mental and physical toughness, it's your discipline, it's your focus. And do those things extremely well every game.
Will, hitting on a question that kind of Joe just mentioned. I mean, fans feel like they're seeing more of your personality this preseason. Is it because of that confidence that you have with the team this year? Or is it just more comfortability here in Columbia?
I don't know. That's for y'all to make the judgment on, I guess.
Aside from the guys whose names were listed in Coach Fink's depth chart, who are some of the other freshmen that you guys are expecting to have roles on Saturday moving forward?
Xavier Leggett, at the receiver position, has done a nice job. Keyshawn Toney at tight end has done a nice job for us. I think the offensive linemen that were listed, Ja'Kai Moore, Vincent Murphy, both guys that we feel like that really made some progress in camp. Ryan Olinsky, obviously, at the quarterback position. Zach Pickens up front. Joe Anderson's got an opportunity. He's certainly going to travel with us on game day. Jamar Brown is on the depth chart, but had a really good camp, a guy that we're excited about on defense and on special teams. And obviously all the secondary guys. John Dixon's had a really good camp. Cam Smith, Jamie Robinson, and Shiloh Sanders, all guys that will travel and contribute at some form.
I know both guys will obviously play, but what have you seen from Aaron and JJ at that defensive end spot that kind of gives you confidence there?
Well, Aaron's just had a really steady camp, in and out. Just really did a nice job in the run game, pass game, and then JJ really, gives us some edge juice. Rushing the passer, he's got some length on him, but both guys complement each other extremely well. I think both guys have had really good camps. Excited about seeing them play on Saturday.
Will R.J. Roderick be available Saturday?
Yes.
What kind of camp has he had for you? I mean, he's a guy who started last half of the season and finds himself second.
Yeah, solid.
Now.
I think it was more attributed to JT and Jam having really good camps and Jamie Robinson doing a really nice job at the nickel. But we still hadn't made any decisions on as far as starting, going into the game as far as those things are concerned. But he's had a solid camp.
Well, what can playing at a neutral site do for a team? And do you have to spend more time maybe in a walkthrough? And are there any more challenges than maybe starting the season at home?
Well, we paint the NFL numbers on our field to make sure our guys understand the divider rules in the secondary and obviously the split rules as a receiver. You've got because it's a different hash and a different number on the field as far as our players are concerned. So that's something you want to always talk to them about when you go to an NFL venue. I think it's no different than going on the road. Obviously we'll have a great crowd there. That's our largest out-of-state. I don't call it out-of-state; it's in-state to us. Fan base or alumni base in South Carolina. So we're excited about getting in front of our fans.
You mentioned last week that Josh Vann had kind of separated himself as one of the top 3 receivers on this team. What did he do over the course of the offseason, over the course of camp, to kind of get to that point?
Well, I think as much as anything, he had a labrum surgery at Tucker High School in January of his senior year, so he missed really 6 months of lifting, and so he went into last season not in great shape. Still contributed and did a really nice job for us as a true freshman, but had not lifted now. Then you get in the season and you're more of a maintenance lift as much as you're not gaining strength as far as those things are concerned. So, we really challenged Josh in the all season. You got to dedicate yourself to the weight room. You got to get stronger. So when people play press coverage against you, don't get bemmed around as much and you're able to run through contact better. And that's where it's made a huge difference for him. But when you gain a lot of strength and strength numbers, which he has, it also gives you confidence as a player. And a stronger player is a more confident player. And certainly that's what I've seen of Josh. He's a more confident guy, and I think a lot of that goes to the strength gains that he's made in the weight room.
You mentioned the crossover of a lot of guys that you recruited playing for North Carolina. Would this be a game where you say you have the most of that, or how do you deal with that, and what is the advantage there?
As far as?
Having guys that you recruited on the other side of the football, as far as that goes.
I mean, I think you're familiar with the player, and you have a lot of respect for them and what their talent is, and just your familiarity I think is important to have with a player that you may have recruited in the past.
No, you've had freshmen who've come in the summer and played right away. But what does that say about some of these guys who are guys who showed up in June or whenever in the summer and are able to be ready to help you all out on Saturday?
Well, I think it's a testament to the evaluation of the recruiting process, and it's a testament to these young men coming in and having the maturity. Because, I always tell, people always ask me about, well, how do I need to play as a freshman? Well, number one, you need to have an opportunity, and then number two, if you have the ability, the most important ingredient next is the maturity, because you got to be mature enough to handle training camp and handle the day-to-day installation and the grind of training camp. And that's really what young players struggle with. And a lot of times young guys hit the wall in practice 12, 13, 14, 15 because they have a hard time handling all the stuff. And those guys have all handled it pretty well as far as that's concerned. And then we'll continue to work through in the season on how much they'll continue to contribute. And a lot of it will be based on how they play in the games.
Anything else for Coach? Pretty good.
All right. Thank y'all. Y'all take care.